good questions this year. I hope we're going to have some good participation. We're asking the kids. It is an essay contest. And
Kind of write something, right?
yes, and we talked about this before. Like, you gotta kind of be ready to reel them in once you say essay contest because they start to check out really quick. They're like, no, I'm not writing an extra paper. I have enough stuff to do, or I have no interest in doing this. So we try to tell them.
Well, you may not have any interest in writing a paper, but the reward.
Reward is amazing, and 250 to 500 words. I had another lady at the co-op go with me, kind of getting her used to some public speaking, and I told her, I said, next year we need to put 250 words on a piece of paper that we can hold up and say, guys,
It's one page.
this is 250 words. You can do this. Essay maybe sounds intimidating, but I mean, realistically, they can meet that requirement on a single page. So the time required to
It's
pump out
minimal.
one of these is very minimal. And the topic this year, we're asking the kids to write about a role model that they have in their life and why that person is important to them. We've had some kids ask us, does it have to be somebody that I actually know? No.
No.
It can be,
It can be Marvel cartoon character if
Right,
you want, if
right.
they have had an impact on your life.
That's right. So we've told them make-believe character, someone you know, someone you've never met, someone that's passed way before you were even born. And I mean, there's not really any restrictions. So
George Jetson.
they could, if that's been a role model, then yeah, maybe, they can write about whoever they would like to write about. But we've told them you're not going to invest a whole lot of time in this essay. And we actually, I think it was the Mountain Grove teacher, she made it a point. She said, guys, even if you don't make top 3, it's not a waste of your time because writing experience it's going to help you be a better writer. But she said this topic especially, she said, hang on to it. Next year you're going to be a senior. You're going to have some writing prompts for some college applications and scholarship applications. This might be one you can reuse. So hang on to it, even if you don't make top 3.
Maybe not if you use George Jetson.
Maybe not if you use George Jetson. But, you might be able to spin that. Are
Well,
you
I mean,
interested
there might be a
in
reason why
technology?
you admire
and-
George Jetson. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but he was just kind of a klutzy ditz in space,
Well,
But anyway, interesting.
yeah. So it is. It's a big deal for us at the co-op. It's a big deal for the juniors. And hopefully if you're a junior, you're not listening because you're in school. But if you're listening and you know a junior, you have a junior or grandkid or
Grandchild
neighbor or
yeah,
niece
cousin,
or nephew,
niece, nephew.
please encourage them to write this essay. It is optional. This is something that they're not being made to do.
But again, let's get to the reward.
Right.
You're right. It's optional. You're not made. You don't have to participate. But why would you not? If somebody said, hey, you want to go to Washington, D.C., and all you have to
For
do
free?
is write 250 words down?
Yeah.
Somebody'd say, absolutely. Okay, well, you got to write this essay. I ain't writing it, yes.
Yeah.
All right, come on. Don't be belligerent and don't be dumb. For what, a 15-minute investment of your time, you may be spending a week in D.C.
That's right. And
Does that sound like a good return on your time?
it's a huge return on your time. Absolutely. And the really great thing about our contest at Intercounty, we have a board that supports these kids and they see what a huge benefit this can be. And so they invest quite a bit of money in our youth tour program, more so than other co-ops across the state, because what they have said is we want each high school to be represented in DC. We want each of them to be represented in Jeff City. We want a localized contest so that these kids are more motivated to participate and they can get to experience one of these trips. Other co-ops across the state, all of the juniors, so we have 9 high schools in our area. Juniors from all 9 of those high schools, the ones that wrote the essays, they would all be put into one pool, and then they might send 1 to 4 to DC and a similar amount to Jeff City. So their odds would be
Much reduced.
much reduced. And so we try to stress that to these kids, like, Hey, this is just for your class. This isn't even for your whole high school. This is just for the juniors, and it's just for the juniors here, and it's only the ones that write the essay. You know, we've had kids come up to us afterwards and be like, "Man, this sounds really good, but I know I'm not one of the top 3 writers." And my encouragement is the top 3 writers may not even try. You might as well write the essay and give it a shot, and just like one of the teachers said, if you don't make top 3, you've not completely wasted your time. And as you mentioned, 15 minutes, there wasn't a whole lot of time invested anyway.
Years ago, and I hate to kind of always say years ago because it shouldn't be this way, but writing was an essential part of your education.
That's right.
It's not so much anymore. They don't really, and I'm not saying teachers don't make their children write, and I don't know if you really, even back in the day, you tried to make them write, whether they wrote or not, then that's still their choice. But if you don't write, if you don't learn how to communicate on a written piece of paper, I know people can go type something on a computer. It's not the same as writing it down on a piece of paper. Now, I know probably when I was in college, I wrote more notes, and then I never, ever pre-wrote a paper, ever.
You didn't have a rough
I
draft?
never had a rough draft.
Oh,
I
had
took
a
my
rough draft.
notes, I'd look at them, and I knew where I wanted. I might change my notes around to where I needed topics that were similar or related, but I never wrote it out first. So I'd get on there and I'd start typing, and if I didn't like it, I'd take the whole page out and go start again. But once I got started, then my mind was flowing in the direction I wanted to go. If you never write, though, I had to write first before I could ever do that. You can't do that. You can't you have to put together some ideas to get started. And that was always the creative writing that I'll say, well, unfortunately, I grew up in a good time when they did kind of make you buckle down and try it, to at least see if you could write. And they would constantly encourage you to write on your own. Not just for class stuff, but go outside or walk around and then go back home that night and write down something in a journal. Now, I'm not saying keep a diary, but just write something down that you saw that day and try and be as descriptive about it as you can, because you'll remember it. And that was always our teacher's big thing. If you write it down, even if you don't remember, 35 years away, if you go reread that, it'll come right back to you.
Memory. Yep.
And they're absolutely right, because a lot of stuff, I'm coming across stuff now I haven't seen in 25 or 30 years. But as soon as I see it, bang,
Right.
it's right
Especially
back in my head.
if it's well written, like you said, very descriptive, then you've got that record.
Right. But I experienced it. And when you experience it and then you write it down, now you've taken the time to try to describe it. So your mind has that wrapped around you. Now, I'm not saying that somebody has to do this for every single thing they do, but if you don't write at all, and all you do is type or text on your phone, you're not going to get anything. You're not thinking about what you're texting on the phone. You're just responding, or you're asking a question of somebody, and it's very short, and it's usually 5 to 6 words. You're not going to remember anything. And I don't mean that badly against today's youth, but if you never do it, you're just not going to ever experience that. And Heather, life is too short. When you go through half of your life and realize you don't remember anything, nothing stands out, nothing is, like going to D.C., if that doesn't hit you in the face like a rock,
Yeah.
you're gonna remember it. You go even and somebody said, well, but Jeff City, I've been to Jeff City. I think Jeff City's cool. I've been to the prison. I've been to the Capitol. I've been to different rooms there, and I've been to chamber when they were actually in session, which was pretty cool, and they got a little heated, which is even better. But if you never experience it, you don't know.
Right. And that's what we tell these kids. These opportunities, this trip to DC, these trips to Jeff City, they're huge opportunities for experiences that even if they've been to DC or Jeff City before, it's going to be different. They're going to go with a group of their peers. There's about 100 of them on both trips that go. And it's a different experience, even if they've been before. And we want to take this opportunity. Obviously, we want them to learn something. We want them to learn a little bit about how their government works. We hope that they'll come back with a renewed sense of patriotism to see the sacrifices that were made, but we want them to have fun too. And we make sure
Absolutely.
that there's some fun things they get to do in DC. If there's a home game, a baseball game, then we try to make sure one evening we can go to that. They have a cruise on the excuse me, on
Potomac.
the Potomac River. One evening they've got music. Kids came back last year. We actually had one of the young men that went. He came back and spoke to his class, and he said, "Guys, it was like a much more fun version of prom in your casual clothes, and stuff like that." We're hopeful that these kids can see, oh, this isn't just Intercounty taking us in a lecture as we walk through a museum about all the things that we see. We want them to have fun. We want it to be memorable.
Sure.
And hopefully they learn something in the process. The same is true about Jeff City. You mentioned the penitentiary. We take them on a tour of the penitentiary. They get to do that. We have some speakers that come in. They get the chance actually to sit on the House floor at the desks of their
Yeah, I
legislators.
didn't get a chance to do that.
They work through the process of a bill becoming a law, which might sound like, oh, why would I want to sit and do that? But it's done in a lighthearted way. It's with a group of teenagers their same age, and it's led by our statewide organization, and they realize that the best way for these kids to learn is to let them have a little bit of fun. So we think that is the case with both of these trips, and something that they're going to get to do this year. And this comes from the kids that for years have come back from Jeff City and they've said, I wish it was longer. It was too short. I wish it was longer. Why isn't there an extra day? This year's the first year we're adding an extra day, and they're going to actually get to take a day trip to St. Louis.
Cool.
So we're going to load them up on a couple of nice tour buses and take them to St. Louis one day, and we're going to have a whole day in St. Louis. They've not really narrowed down. I mean, this isn't till July, so we've got a little bit of time to pin down exactly what we're going to do. But we're thinking something like the City Museum, which is not a
Science
museum,
Center, yeah.
actually. The zoo, the Science Center,
Well,
something
it
like
is a
that.
museum. It's just of different ideas.
Right.
It's not a typical museum that you would
Right.
think of, but it definitely is a museum of ideas, which
It
is
is.
crazy.
Yeah, a lot of creativity into that place. We had one student tell us that it's not a museum, it's like a giant playground for big kids. That's kind of a good way to describe it,
is.
too. But,
It is.
That's going to be a fun day. They get to spend with the new friends that they've made and have those experiences
Sure.
and those memories. So both trips fantastic. Both trips are free. The co-op pays for everything, their travel, their arrangements, their admission into these places, their food. There's not a whole lot of opportunities that come around where you can win something that significant for such little effort.
Yeah. If you come up with some more of those, would you let me know? So I
For
could-
adults,
Yeah.
like, is there
Yeah. And let's not forget about the importance of it all is the impact that this is going to have, not only in the child's life of winning this and having a chance to go, but the people that they're going to meet.
Right.
People exactly like them that are going through the same thing, probably scared out of their wits going away from home for the first
Oh, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And not knowing anybody, and what am I going to do? And I'm scared, and I'm this, and okay, hey, grant you, I think all of us have done this at one time or another, somehow, some way, and we all lived through it. Amazingly, we all got through it somehow, and we became better people after the fact, because a lot of times, no matter what this is, you're going to meet some people that are going to possibly be part of your life for the rest of your life.
Right. And it's so much easier for these students to stay in touch now with social media. And they do. They come back. We're in the school the following year, and they're seniors, and they'll see us in the classroom or in the hallway, and they'll be like, hey, I think one of my favorite stories, a young lady, she said, I'm rooming in college with one of the girls that I met on the DC trip. They really do make connections. And when you're standing in front of a class and you're telling them, hey, you guys are going to make so many new friends, and they're just looking at you like, why do I need new friends? And that sounds awful and intimidating, and I'm going to be nervous and not know anybody. And they come back and we hear every year, I had no idea what I won. I had no idea.
Well,
I
that's
knew it
true.
was going to be amazing, but I didn't realize it was going to be what it was. So we hope that these kids, they go, they come back. We've been reminding them, hey, your senior year when you come back, and we're telling the alumni, make sure when you're applying for these different things, scholarships or colleges or even jobs, if they're going directly in the workforce, put this down. You won this.
That's
This
right.
is something you were awarded.
Excuse me.
Brag on that, on those applications. That is what helps you stand out amongst other candidates, and that's what you want to do when you're, shooting for a scholarship or a job, something like that.
Or trying to get started.
Right.
When you're trying to get started, you need every edge you can.
That's right.
And it's not getting easier to get started. It's actually getting harder because we all know there's a lot of technology out there. And a lot of that technology has replaced a lot of things that people used to have jobs at.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just attrition. It happens. But if you don't have a special talent, you don't need to be that person that's on the sideline. You definitely want to be out on the field playing.
Right.
Or participating or working or moving forward. So this is a great way to do it. It takes very little effort. And now I'm going to tell you, in Salem, you're going to need to get that paper in pretty soon. I think it's the 20 day after President's Day. I think is
The
when they
20th?
have to have it in. I think it's the 20th.
I think it's the 20th,
And
yeah.
I think so. I think it's the 20th. But anyway, still got time.
Absolutely. So
Won't take that long, but do take a little time and a little effort to write it, because you definitely want to be one selected. And please, we want our school to be well represented. I know one year we didn't have anybody from Salem
I
even
know.
turn one in.
I
That's
know.
extremely disappointing. So we'd
Yeah.
like to have all the kids. I'd like to have 50 of them turn in an essay.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I think it should. I actually think it should almost be a required thing that somewhere in one of these classes, especially with the topic this year, who made an impact on your life? That should be a question every year that students address, because every year it changes. It could be a coach, it could be a parent, it could be a cartoon character, but it could be somebody at church that suddenly woke you up and said something that just all of a sudden, like the little light above your head goes ding,
Right.
like opens your eyes to something that maybe you were unaware of.
Yeah. We had a student ask us, can I write about Nikola Tesla? Sure. I mean, and that's my point. It doesn't have to be someone they know,
No.
but it absolutely could be. And sometimes I think leaving that open for them maybe makes it a little bit more difficult for them, because we are giving them the freedom to pick anyone, past, present,
Anybody.
fictional or not,
Yeah.
and so maybe they're used to a little bit more structure and guidelines and write about this specifically. But I've just told them the hardest part's going to probably be deciding who you want to write about. Once you decide who you're going to write about, getting 250 words on a paper about that person is not going to be very time
No,
consuming.
getting started. You just
Right.
have to get started.
Yeah.
Jot down some ideas. I highly recommend you don't just try and write it off the top of your head. Just jot down a few things. Bullet points is what we've always called them. And then you have 5 or 6 different ideas, and this is why this person means so much to me, and then go from there. Influential people are around us all the time.
Right.
It might be somebody you least expect that makes the biggest impact on you.
And the important part of this is that there's not a right or wrong answer. So who is important to you is probably not important to me, and vice versa. So they don't have to worry about, oh, is this the right answer? Can I write about
Sure.
my big sister, or is that not as important enough? There's none of this concern about picking the wrong person, because it's going to be unique for each person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, if you in the Salem area, I think it's the 20th. I think those things are due.
Yep.
Not am I speaking for Licking or Raymondville or Rolla or St. James or any of those schools. I don't know when they're.
Yeah.
the
So
deadline is.
what you'll need to do is just check with the counselor or the high school junior English teacher. Usually it's one of those people, they're your contact. But if not, they can get you in contact with the right person. the top 3 from the school are due back to us by March 1st.
Right.
And we let each school have some flexibility. They set their own deadline because they will remove names off of those, number them, then they'll have a panel of teachers at the school that blind judge those and narrow them down. So some schools need just a couple of days. Some like to have about a week to get that done. So definitely check with your counselor to find out when that due date is.
All right, very good. Junior essay contest.
Good stuff.
Next time we'll talk about it, we're going to have
Some names.
some names for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, good luck to anybody who wants to do that, and we hope everybody could be a winner in this. It's an opportunity that just doesn't come along very often. Take advantage of it. You don't get second chances at life a lot of times, and you're only a junior one time.
Hopefully.
Well, where you could compete in the
Right.
contest. Okay, but put it that way. All right, we got a couple of things we probably need to talk about. Number
Yes.
1, Groundhog Day.
Sure.
It was great. This is great.
Early spring.
No.
Yeah.
No, I meant that's not what I'm really talking about. No, what I am talking about is that a lot of times on Groundhog Day, Punxsutawney Phil sees his shadow. Sometimes he doesn't. And when he doesn't see a shadow, it always seems that we had higher bills because it takes a lot more to keep us warm.
It's been
Phil's down in his little burrow. He doesn't even care.
right. It's been cold. Yes.
Been
So
very cold.
we've had a lot of member calls, concerns with their usage on their bill. This month's bill reflected usage back in January, and if you'll recall, we had 11 consecutive days where the temperature never got over 20 degrees, which means it was cold, and it was cold for an extended period of time. The biggest surprise, I guess you'd say, are members who have heat pumps. They're used to that efficient heat source. I mean, heat pumps are very efficient, and they operate until it gets down to about 30 degrees. And then once it gets below that, when it gets down into the 20s and below, then that backup heat source has to run. And we've had a lot of members who have heat pumps with electric backup. And what that means is for those 11 days, their heat pump never had an opportunity to even come on and operate in that efficient mode. The electric strips, that electric furnace, that's what was running 24 hours a day for 11 days. So there's a lot of usage and a lot of usage in homes where they're used to having a much more efficient heat source. And that extra usage means extra money, and that kind of was a sticker shock to a lot of members.
Yeah.
And a few things. First of all, if you don't have Smart Hub, please download that. It's a really great app. You can access it just from our website too if you're on a computer. But Smart Hub gives you a lot of access to tools that are going to help you even through the month, understand your usage, check on your usage, just kind of be mindful of that. When it's cold, your instinct might be to go bump up the thermostat a couple of degrees. But if you're keeping an eye on that usage every day or every couple of days, you can see that, oh, wow, we're really using a lot. Maybe I'll leave that thermostat alone and I'll just put on a sweater. You know, it helps you throughout the month maybe make more mindful choices. But it's a great tool, and it's been really helpful as our member service reps are trying to explain why the bills are higher for some of our members. There's an option on there where you can overlay usage data with temperature data for the past month. And that, if you're a visual person, is very helpful because you can see on those days where your usage is really, really high,
It's really, really cold.
it's really, really cold. And once we got out of that cold spell, I mean, it's not like it kind of lingered and got up into the 30s and then inched into the 40s. I mean, we got in the 50s fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's
But the ground is still cold.
the ground is still cold, but it was easy to see that, look, once the temperature went up, the usage dropped. And that's helpful when you're trying to decide, is there something wrong? Do I have an actual problem? Or is this just because it was cold? And if it's because it's cold and you have heat sources that are running, you're going to see that usage drop when the temperature goes up.
Sure.
Now, if the temperature dropped and the usage continued to go up, then maybe you that was indication maybe I need to check my well. Is my well pump running all the time, or has my water heater element gone out, or what else could be an issue?
Like space heaters.
Space heaters. Oh, those are like a four-letter word.
Yeah, cost.
Cost. There you go.
Space heaters
High. Yeah.
cost. They really do.
They do. And I know when you've got your bill and it's high and you hear, oh, your space heater probably caused that. That's not the answer that you want. But let us help you calculate the cost for those. I mean, most of them are 1500 watt heaters. Some of them have an option, like a
For
high low.
900 or 600, yeah.
Right. They've got different levels, if you will. But a 1500 watt heater, regardless if you bought it at a yard sale or the most expensive store ever, a 1500 watt heater is a 1500 watt heater, and it's going to use the same. There's no efficient model. There are safer models.
Sure.
What you have available today, they've got the tip hazard features, and they've
protection.
They've got protection, so they are safer, and that's great. But they still use
1500
watts. And if you have those running 8, 10, 12 hours a day, that cost adds up.
You have to start multiplying that. It's not just
You have to
1500 watts.
start-
That's it.
I know, you got to do math. And that's why I said we can help you. So call in. If you've got a space heater, call in. We'll ask you for some numbers off the back of that, off the sticker, and then we can do the math for you, and we can tell you if this is how much you're using it every day, this is what you can expect at the end of the month. And we shared actually, it was just a snippet of a calculator that we have where we can easily tell people if you have a heater and you're using it this many days a week and it is this size, here's what it'll use. We shared that on our Facebook page, and there was a lot of interaction with that. And I think that was kind of eye-opening to our members that, oh, wow. And that's just one. If I have one space heater
Right.
and I'm using it this much a day, this is what I can anticipate extra on my electric bill.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, excuse me, when we had those extremely cold nights with their cabinets open, sometimes may have had to use a space heater to keep their pipes from freezing.
Right.
Totally get it and totally understand it. And you have to understand if that's happening, you're going to have a little electric shock.
Right.
Because that's not going to cool down much. I mean, you might have your thermostat set 65, but underneath those cabinets, it's not 65. It's going to be
Colder.
cold.
Yeah.
And so you've got a space heater, possibly, right, with an open cabinet to try and guide that heat in there to keep those pipes from freezing. It's totally understandable. However, know that that's going to create a little bit higher bill, no matter what you set your other thermostat at. And one of the things that we don't talk about very often is the amount of moisture that's in the ground that creates the cold and the heat. For example, we talk about when we first get that first cold, the ground's still warm. People will say, well, how do you know it's still warm? Well, you can let it snow all at once. It's just melting as it hits. So the ground is still warm. So as that's still warm and it cools down, your temperatures in your furnace, you don't have to work as hard. Same with your heat pump. Don't have to work as hard because the ground's still fairly warm. Once it gets to like -5 for about 5 days and you see that the level in the ground is dropping, then all of a sudden you get a 55-degree day. That's not coming back up as quick. Just like it didn't cool off as quick, it doesn't rise as quick, and it takes a while. The more moisture you have, and I can't speak what they had in Licking. We had almost 6 inches of rain in our area. That ground is saturated. Saturated ground is wet ground. 30 degrees in wet ground is cold. And if you jump in water, and that water is cold, and a wind hits you, guess what? It's twice as cold.
Right.
Same idea. So, not trying to scare anybody away. This is just the realities of heat and cold. They don't just change at a moment's notice. Now, if you're in the air temperature, yeah, air temperature can change quickly. And if you throw water in there, that can amplify or drop things much quicker. But when it's in the ground, it's harder to determine exactly how long does it take to get from 1 inch of saturation to 5 inches. And then that's colder temperatures down there, so your heat pump says, I can't get any more heat out of the ground.
Right. This is all I got.
That's all I got.
Let's switch over to that electric furnace
Exactly.
or the gas
So
furnace.
sometimes it may not even be 30 degrees. It could actually be 35. But if it's soaking wet, it may drop a little bit more. So don't always just say, well, it was 32 degrees and my heat pump stopped. Well, yeah, that could happen, especially if you get 5 to 6 inches of rain and your ground is absolutely saturated. And as soon as you take your first step outside and you sink 3 inches, you realize it's pretty wet outside.
Yeah.
And that affects everything as well.
It does.
So it's not just one factor. And I think, Heather, sometimes we always blame a space heater, or blame the one hot day we had. Oh my gosh, everything went crazy. No, it's not one. It's what we do in response to that.
Right.
Is how our bills tend to go. So it
Yeah.
can be a little bit of a sticker shock.
It can. But just remember, as we come up on the 15th and the 22nd, if you had one of those high bills and you're sitting there and you're wondering, how am I going to make this work? Please know you can call in. We can work with you on a payment arrangement so that you can pay part of that and then part of it later on in the month or with next month's bill. So there's an option there to be able to kind of stretch that out. But we need to know. Don't wait until you get your disconnect notice. At that point, it's too late. So make sure you call us, let us know. We're going to be able to work with you on something. And we may be able to put you in touch with some assistance organizations that have some funding that can help with utility assistance.
Sure. But there's also levelized billing.
There
It
is.
really works nice.
Yeah, we have. So
You're going to have to make an adjustment somewhere
You
in there.
do.
But at
And-
least you're not going to get hooked with a hockey stick across the head and yanked backwards because your bill went from $150 to $450.
right. So levelized billing is it's an option for members who have been at the same location for at least 12 months. We find what your average is and we set you at that amount for the next year.
Which is fair.
It's fair. And then on that 13th month, we adjust based on what you actually used. And then your amount may go up or down depending on whatever changes you had in your home, what you actually used. I do want to stress the importance of making sure when you're on levelized billing, especially if you're on levelized billing and bank draft, that is an amazing combination because then you know exactly what your bill is going to be each month and you know it's going to be drafted. You don't even, it's like the thinking is out of it. But we want you to keep an eye on what you're actually using because we don't want you to be in a situation where maybe your well pump is running all the time.
Yeah.
And then it's months and months of that and that higher usage and you weren't checking to make sure that it was in line with what you typically use.
Absolutely.
And then when it's up for renewal, then we've got to take into consideration what you did actually use and that was way extra because of a problem or
Sure.
because of some big change. You put in a pool during the summer and
But I'm on levelized billing. It's not going to change.
yeah, I don't have to pay any extra because I have levelized. It does keep track of what you actually use, and we will adjust that on the 13th month. So please, if you're on levelized, especially if you're on levelized and bank draft, as easy as it is to just forget about it and not think about it, kind of at least when you get your bill,
Look at it.
look at it, and
Because they'll tell you the actual usage.
it will. Yeah.
And if it's, say you're paying $145, and I'm just throwing this out there, and then all of a sudden, and that's your levelized bill is $145, and that's great. And in the wintertime, your usage may go up. In the summertime, your usage may go up. In those other months, it should go down. So that's why it
Right.
balances out, right? Well, if all of a sudden in March or April, you have a $450 bill, you've got a problem.
Right.
Something's not right.
And we want to find that as soon as possible.
Well, you want to find it as soon as possible because, as Heather mentioned, it can be a number of things that you just don't have access to. A well pump, you don't know if that well pump's going 24 hours a day, every single day, and the same thing with a heating element that goes out in your water heater. I've had that happen. That's a scary thought. You don't even know it.
Right.
You're
It
still
just-
having hot water. So you figure that both elements are working, and they are. It's working. It's shorted out, but it's going to town.
It's still.
And it's just
Yeah.
sucking the electric right out of it. But it's not saving you any money. And sometimes you have to start eliminating different things, one thing at a time, to find out what the issue is.
Right. Yep, you're absolutely right.
It does happen that way. Sometimes you even have a short someplace that you may not know of. It does happen.
It's possible.
We're talking about electricity through lightning and what it can do. And they can easily take two wires and solder them together and create a short.
Yeah.
And you'll never know until you get a big bill like that, and that electric's just running 24/7, and you're going to get a sticker shock again. But if it's in a month that you shouldn't get one, then you've got some issues.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless there's some extenuating circumstances, like 30 people moved into your house.
That would make a difference on your electric bill, I would imagine.
As well as water and anything else you might have.
Yeah, everything else.
But again, there's just a lot of people need just common sense. If you're going to do, especially if you know that you're not going to be able to afford big bills in the winter or summer, levelized billing, if you've been at your location over a year, it just makes sense.
It's a great budgeting tool.
It is. And then you know you're going to be paying X amount of dollars, 12 straight months. Yes, you're going to have to make an adjustment, month 13. But for those 12 straight months, you know exactly what it's going to be, and you can put extra money aside, knowing, especially if you know it's gotten super cold or super hot, that you're probably going to have to pay a little extra in month 13.
Yeah.
Then they reestablish that, and you can go back on doing it with a new rate once they establish what you owe.
Right. Yeah. It's
really a beautiful program.
It is. It's a great tool. It really is. And if you're not on it and you are thinking about it, but you don't want to commit until you know what that amount would be, you can call and we can run those numbers for you and tell you, hey, if you, at your location, if we were going to set you up on levelized billing, it would be, your example, $145 a month. And then you can decide, yeah, go ahead and send me an application for that. I'd like to do it. Or right now, I think I'm going to stick with traditional billing, but thank you for calculating it. I mean, you can ask about it and not commit to it.
Sure, absolutely. You're not to sign a dotted line. You're good to go.
That's right.
But keep in mind, the bank draft and that, it's a great way to do it where you don't have to worry about it every month. However, you still need to monitor your electric usage.
Yes.
It's not just going to go away if you have a big problem. It's just going to show up
later,
a few months down the road.
Yeah.
Then you're going to try and figure out, what did I do wrong? Does happen.
It does.
It does happen.
It absolutely does.
Absolutely. All right, very good. And it's the same with anything that you do on a levelized basis, whether it be a house payment or whatever. Some people pay their taxes on their house payment. And then all of a sudden they get reassessed, and at the end of the year they get another bill.
It wasn't enough.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. And then they think, oh, wait a minute, I've been paying it all year, based upon previous year's experience.
Yeah.
Not what it is currently. And so if you use a lot of extra, you're going to get it. If your value of your home goes through the roof, you're going to pay the assessment.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing sometimes.
It
because
is,
we feel that we're leaving this in the hands of the people who know what they're doing, banks and things of that nature. All they're doing is passing on the cost to make sure that, okay, if you have had trouble paying taxes in the past, you bought a new home, they include that in your payment, it's going to be paid. At least most of your taxes will be paid.
Yeah. A chunk of them anyway.
Yeah. But you're still going to probably owe a little bit. And that's okay. Just know that that's going to happen. And hopefully the banks, when they explain that to you when you get your mortgage, that this may be a little higher. And it could even be a little lower if you get devalued in your assessment. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
No, not very often at all. But it does happen occasionally. But for the most part, you may have to pay a little extra. Just be ready for it. Very good. Great. We do have an increase in rates, though, coming up, don't we?
I know. That's what I'm like. Do
I
just dive into the rate increase? Do I save it for the end? I'm like, I don't want to
just
end on
dive
that.
in.
So if
the water's warm.
Not really. So if you've been reading your magazine the last couple of months, we've been talking about an upcoming rate increase, and I don't think anybody's surprised about this. The costs of everything, I mean, it's just gone up. We feel it when we go grocery shopping,
Everywhere.
when we pay our other bills. I think people understand that it's just kind of inevitable that Intercounty had to raise their rates too. But we actually, our power cost, we had an increase in that January 1. And our board has said, no, we're not going to increase them during the time where most of our members have their highest bills
Sure.
anyway. We're going to wait till April 1st like we've always done. That is springtime. That's typically when there's lower usage. We've made it through those really cold winter months and usage is starting to go down. So even though we've already received our rate increases, we're not passing those on until April 1st. And it's not an easy thing that our board has to do. And I'll tell you, I've been able to be in the room during some of these discussions, and they take this very seriously. And they're members too. They don't want to have to raise these rates, but we are going to see an increase in both our kilowatt hour rate and our service availability. We did some math on the average member's bill, and it's right around $7 that it's going to be an increase per month for the average member, which is it's not a whole lot, but $7 is $7. And
It's $84 a year.
when you're trying to,
That can be,
we're
that can
talking
be
about
tough.
levelized billing and budgeting. When you're trying to stretch your paycheck to cover everything and everything's going up, $7 does make a difference, and we realize that. So we just want to make sure that we're giving people plenty of notice, we're being transparent, that you have time to kind of prepare for this. And we've had some members call in and just say, hey, I know rates are going up in April. Can I get an energy audit? Their thought has been, it's going to cost me more to use what I normally use. So if I can cut back and be more energy aware at home, if I can be more conservative, then that'll offset that increase. And that is definitely a very proactive way to think of that. And if you'd like to have an energy audit, you're more than welcome to call. We'll get you on the list. We can come out, take a look at your home, point out some ways that you can save at home, some things that you can do that'll help lower your usage. If you're not interested in an energy audit, but you just want to talk to somebody about, hey, I know there's probably some things I could do to be more efficient at home. Can you tell me about some of those major things, the big things that I can do? And it's not that these are genius, original ideas we're going to share with you, but it's things that we just recognize from working in the industry that maybe you've not realized make such a big difference. Like checking your attic insulation to see if it's settled or if there's enough up there, or replacing that weather stripping around your doors. If you can see some light around that, you may not think it makes a big difference, but a lot of little things like that, they do.
If you can see light, you can feel air.
And that means your heating cooling system, whether summer or winter, either one, that's going to be running more. So let us just kind of give you some pointers over the phone, even if you're not interested in having an energy audit, and we can talk to you about some things that you can do to help cut back on your usage and eliminate some of the waste. And then maybe when April comes and the rate increase goes into effect, you won't feel that full $7 because your usage has gone down.
And hopefully, too, with the energy audit, and a lot of times they'll find some phantom power that you have that you can eliminate that will help make up that difference. And some people say, well, I don't have any phantom power. Oh, yes, you do.
We had a lady with 3 teenage boys, each of them their own TV and gaming system that they left on all day long. And she had no idea. She's like, I didn't know it would use that much.
Well, even though they say they turn it off.
No, they very openly said they left it on.
But
Yeah.
even if you think you've turned it off, okay? So, for example, a lot of people say, well, my computer, I shut it off. No, you didn't. You let it go to sleep. It's still on.
It's in standby.
As is the monitor. As is the power strip that you have it attached to. And the battery backup you may have it attached to. All those are still on. They're running. They're not using a tremendous amount of electricity, but they're on. Your coffee machine that you have there. It's got that little clock on it. It's nicely illuminated. It's pretty. It's phantom power. Your microwave, that little clock up there, you see, that's phantom power. Even on your stove, it's phantom power. You know, your stove's not on, that phantom power is going through all your chargers, your TVs, your internet. You got Wi-Fi, you got a router. Guess what? It's on all the time. We don't think about these things. Even, you know, we can go as far as saying the old electric alarm clocks. It's a phantom power. It's
is.
always on 24/7 unless the electric is off.
Right.
Okay? Now, does it use a tremendous amount? Is it going to affect your bill if I unplug that and use a battery one?
You're not going to notice
You're not
it.
going to really notice too much. Now, if you have 25 alarm clocks plugged in and you do that, you would notice over a period of time. You definitely would notice a little change, maybe a couple dollars here and there total. However, phantom power is still phantom power. But there's a lot of people, Heather, that could shut off their monitors. You can shut off your computer. You don't need to leave it on. Your laptop's left on all the time. It's running all the time. You have some people still have those little phones that are up there, the landlines that their phone is on all the time.
And a power strip, a surge protector, those are the easiest ways to kind of control that, because you can have everything, especially like when, you know, talking about a computer, you've got that set up, you've got your monitor, you've got the computer, your TV and satellite dish, especially if you have a DVR set up. Those things, it's a lot easier to just flip that little switch on the power strip, and then the stuff is off.
Right.
And then when you get home, you can flip it back on.
Right.
And you know, like Stan said, unplugging one alarm clock, you're not going to notice a difference. But if you walk through your home and you take a look at all the things that are actually running, especially if it's some of the bigger users, like the TVs that are always on standby so that they're instantly
sure.
on, and you've got the
And they have their
satellite
guides so
dish,
you don't miss a thing.
and you've got
They will load in about 3 minutes.
the TVs in the teenagers' rooms with the gaming systems that are running updates while you're gone. Those use electricity, and if you're okay with that, then we're not telling you not to use them by any
Right,
means. If
sure.
that convenience is important to you, you have it
Right.
available. The power is there for you to consume for whatever you need it for.
Right.
But just be aware, all of those things do add up. And if you're looking for ways that you can kind of conserve on electrical usage, those might be some places to start.
Right, and we talk about that, but also there's, phantom power is in so many different things that I think people just lose track of them. So you may have a treadmill, it's plugged in, it's on all the time. You may have elliptical there too, and it's plugged in, and you haven't used it in 8 months, and it's still running power. The one that always gets me, that most people seem to ever forget, is your outdoor utensils that you may use that are on batteries, that you leave the battery charger plugged in all the time. You charge in a battery twice a year, but you leave the battery plugged in all the
All year
time.
long.
And guess what? It's a trickle charge. It's constantly on. But you don't even know it. It's out in the garage. You never see it. There's no light on it. It just sits there. The light comes on when you put the battery on there, but there's no other light on it. And you've got it plugged in, and it's running. It's not dormant. It's running. And there's a lot of people have it. Yes, we all have phantom power because we have freezers, refrigerators, things of that nature. Yes, that's always running. Yeah, you're going to have that. You're not going to get rid of that. However, these other little things, and that's just pittance. That's not going to amount to anything. If you've got 10 or 12 of those phantom powers that you don't need plugged in, I mean, it doesn't sound like much to charge your phone. So you take your phone, you take the plug out, and you leave the little charger in the wall. It's still running. That transformer's loving you. But it is. If you have 10 or 12 or 14 of these, you will notice a difference. It won't be $50 a month, but it
Right.
may be 3 to 5. And the increase is 7. If that's a little savings, it's a little savings. So maybe do a little, what they call them, power vampires. because they just suck the power right, and they suck the money right out of your account too. But they do just keep sucking power,
Right.
and they do nothing.
Well, and an easy walkthrough of your home, if you'll just take the time, walk through from one end to the other, take a look, feel, especially on a windy day, feel around your windows, around your doors.
Right.
Make note of areas that you think need attention. Is there a room that's colder than the rest? Maybe you need to have the ductwork checked to make sure that that hasn't come loose and you're just
Or you have a
blowing
little crack in it.
conditioned
Yeah.
air into your crawl space.
Sure.
Walk through, take note of what you have that's always on, like, the satellite dish or the chargers or the coffee maker. And then you're going to have a place to start. You're going to know, okay, when it gets warm enough, I need to replace the weather stripping or the caulking around the windows in the 2 back bedrooms. And I need to have the ductwork checked in because this room is cold. You're going to essentially make yourself a to-do list. And I think everybody could find something that could probably be improved on that would help the efficiency of their home.
Sure. And it doesn't mean once you've done it that you can forget about it forever. I just
Right,
noticed,
right.
this past winter, we have a front door and never had any air around that front door. And I noticed this year, oh, draft. Well, that nice little threshold had a little rubber piece on there, has flattened out.
Not
I
as
had to
efficient
I had
as
to
it
put a
used to be.
towel over that. There's nothing I can do right now, but I put a towel up against that to keep the cold air out and to keep our air in and keep that from just filtering in at a great pace that you can't stop. The door's closed, but I can't go change that threshold out because it's just not the good time of year to try and get that open. Then you're leaving the door wide open and it's 5
Right.
degrees outside.
Right.
Not a real smart idea, Stan. So, but the bottom line is that you'll find these things. Occasionally, the caulking around your windows cracks. It can happen. So do take a look. Maybe today will be a good day. It's supposed to be up 55, near 60 degrees. So walk around, take a look. See something that's obvious. Today's not the day you can do it, but write it down. Then you can write this essay. It's a junior. And say, what's most important to me was my windows. It became a big thing. Tell me not to, get the idea. I'm just being facetious now. But the idea is there. Please, please monitor your own home. There's a lot of things that you can save on. And they're trying to do a lot of different things where, matter of fact, I know even in our house, we have a light that the light fixture's on all the time. The light is a detectable light for motion, but it's on all the time.
Oh.
It
So it's
doesn't go.
not a motion light.
It is a motion light. It only glows, but it has to be active to glow. So it has to have an eye on inside to see
That's always
anything
on.
to turn it on.
Valid
Because
point.
if you turn the power off to the switch, guess what? It doesn't work.
Yep, we've got one too.
So all the new things that they don't tell you, it's not going to use that much electric, but it's going to have a phantom power to it.
Those little bits add up.
They just kind of sneak that stuff in on us, don't
Yeah, they do.
They really do. Anyway, nonetheless, I don't have anything else to talk about. I don't know about you.
I
Would you like
just-
to talk about Roundup or something? of that nature?
Well, I was gonna give. I know it's a little early to talk about annual meeting because
Wow.
that's not until June. But I do want to point out that the next magazine you get when you get your March one, and normally those show up the end of the month. So here in a couple of weeks, you'll probably be getting your March Rural Missouri magazine. There is an application for booth space in there.
There you go.
And if you know you want to be a vendor, please go ahead and fill that out and send it back in. Those spaces do fill up, and they're on a first come, first serve basis. So hopefully you're not just getting that magazine and tossing it anyway. Hopefully you're
Got some
looking at
good
it.
stuff in there.
But if you know you want to be a vendor at annual meeting in June, make sure you pay special attention, flip through there, find that page that's got that craft application, fill that out,
Sure.
send it back in.
Absolutely.
I know, the annual meeting. That's what I'm like, why am I talking about annual
Yeah, I was
meeting?
going to say
It's February.
been a little cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now it's back to the regular Friday of June.
Last Friday in June. Yep,
Yeah.
it's going to be the 28th.
Back to the regular Friday.
I
of
know.
June.
It was, last year was a little weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't say last Friday.
No. Yeah. You don't get a chance to do that very often. You may not say that again for a number of years,
I know.
15 years or so.
Yeah.
So
But this year it is. It'll be the
this
last
year
Friday
it
in
is.
June, June
Yes.
28th. We will talk about that more and more
Sure.
as it gets closer to
Get you
June.
closer to look at the lineup too, and what's going to be happening. So
Yep. But for now,
yeah.
just
But-
know.
So that will be in the next rural
Yep, in the
rural
March.
Missouri.
March and April. Those are the 2 months it's in there because May 1st, those are due. Unless
Wow.
it books up before then. So, and
Well,
that
there you
has
go.
happened.
Very good. All right, be looking for that. It'll be in the mail before you know it.
Yep.
And February is still a short month, even with the leap day.
I know. It is.
But
Yeah.
still a short month.
Yep.
Very good. I have nothing else.
Let me leave some contact information in case you got
That
any
would be
questions.
a great idea.
Yeah.
You know numbers?
I do know numbers. So if you need to give us a call, you can reach us toll free at 866-621-3679. You can always visit us online at ieca.coop. And of course, if you're on social media, you can search for Intercounty Electric and follow us on there and keep up to date with what we got going on too.
Don't forget about Smart Hub.
Yes, and I'm sure everybody listening, they already have it. They've heard us talk about it so much. Surely they can't not have that on their phone.
I don't know about that, but stop calling me Shirley.
Surely.
Anyway,
Hey, Shirley.
well, and it's true. You would think that we've talked about it enough times, but sometimes it doesn't sink in until all of a sudden you need it, and then wham! It's like a
Yeah.
nice fist in your face.
And if you want to set that up and maybe you're afraid you won't be able to get it done right on your phone, we've got offices in Rolla, Licking, and Mountain Grove. You can pop in. We can help you get it set up on your phone. If you want to call us and let us help walk you through that over the phone while you're doing it, we can do that too. I mean, we want to help you get it. So
It's pretty simple.
don't
It really is.
don't not have it because you're not sure you can get it downloaded and get your account set up. We'll get you through it.
Even a caveman can do it.
Even okay. I've heard that before.
I don't know. We'll steal it. I don't think they don't have a registered trademark. Anyway, but nonetheless, I mean, there's just some good ideas
There is.
that you can find on Smart Hub, and then you start talking about trying to save money. And there's ways there, and they've listed a whole bunch of different things you can check. So a lot of those different ideas that you might be calling Intercounty about anyway, you can find on Smart Hub. So
Right.
help save you some money.
Yep.
Heather, it's always a pleasure to have you
Yeah,
in. We hope
thanks
you
for having me.
and your better half and all the kids have a fantastic Valentine's Day, which is
Yeah.
tomorrow.
And you too.
Very good. Thank you. And also, we want to remind everybody that we have Leap Day this year, and we always really do appreciate everybody that always celebrates Leap Day. Not
Right.
Leap Year, because it's just Leap Day. It's not every year you have a Leap Year, so you have one come up. But I'm going to throw something at you. You have another
Okay.
day of electric on your bill.
You do. That's
Yeah.
true.
So don't forget that. It's not that you're probably going to see a huge change, but if you compare this February and the previous February and the previous February to this February when you get your bills in, you may have a little difference,
Right. Extra day makes a difference.
depending upon how cold or whatever it is. But, we try always, it's not the standard. It's not the 30 days or 31 days we have in every month. And usually it's 28. Not this year. You got 29.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Hopefully it's not cold though.
Hopefully it's not cold. Let's
Yeah.
hope Leap Day is a fantastic day.
Yeah.
Today's going to be a great day.
It
so
is.
Hope you
Yeah.
get a chance
Be a
to
beautiful
enjoy it.
afternoon.
And you let your heat pump do the work today.
That's right. That is right.
There you go. Heather, as always, appreciate you coming by.
Yeah.
Right here on KSMO Radio. Our Intercounty Tuesday is the second Tuesday of every month. We always appreciate our friends from Intercounty coming by and spending some time with us. If you heard something here that maybe you didn't catch all the details that you need, feel free to call them at Intercounty Electric or go on Smart Hub, and you can even send them an email from there if you
Yep.
see something there you're not quite sure of. And just stay up to date as much as you possibly can. Hopefully, and we didn't talk about it today, but hopefully we keep the spring showers to a minimum.
We've had a lot here lately,
Yeah,
haven't we?
we have. We had some rain, but usually in the springtime we start to get those thunderstorms and the wind. So kind of keep that in mind. If there is an outage, and we did have an outage here in Salem not too
Yeah, you
long
did.
ago.
Yep.
You can, and the nice part about Smart Hub is you can go check and see if it's already been reported.
Right?
And if it has been, when was it reported? That was the funny part because I did that. I came here and I'm up a little bit early and it was on at 5:03. It was off at 5:05. That's kind of weird that I turned on the radio at home and everything's good. And when I'm coming to work, it's off. What the heck happened? So I came in, but it went off at 5:04. For whatever reason,
Yeah.
and then but somebody reported at 5:05, and so it was already been reported, and then they were on top of it. No need for me to call. They already knew that I was off, so that's good.
Good deal. But
Yeah.
there's always the option to go ahead and report it on there, call
but
it
ag-
in. You
but
always
again,
can.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't say you are off. It says you may be off. On Smart Hub, and so, if you are off, then more than likely it's because of the situation at hand.
Yeah.
But it doesn't preclude you from calling in and letting them know that you're off. One thing I do recommend when you do call in, let them know your poll number. It's always very,
Absolutely.
very, very, I'm not saying it's required, but it will sure help them isolate exactly where that
It will.
location
And
is.
it'll speed up your call, too. You can be on and off the phone a lot quicker if you have that.
So just take a look at
Poll
your
number.
bill. It's right on there. And if you can, and that will speed up the
Yep.
process a little bit quicker. As always, Heather, thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a fantastic Valentine's Day and look forward to seeing you again in March.
March, we'll have some youth tour names. Yay!
All right. Okay, thank you very much. That's Intercounty Tuesday on KSMO Media. Stick around.